12 episodes, 4 virtues, 4 archetypes, one question asked from every angle. What does it mean for a man to become fully what he's capable of being? I want you to imagine a man walking into a room. Not a particular room, not a dramatic entrance, just a man walking into a room where other people are. His family, his colleagues, his friends, the people he's responsible for, or the people who are responsible for him, or people who just happen to be present. What does that room receive when he walks in? That question, that specific question, is what this entire first season has been about. Not what a man knows, not what he intends, not what he tells people about himself, or what he plans to become eventually. What does the room receive when he walks in? What is actually present in him, available to the people around him, carried in his body and in his attention and his willingness to be there? This is the last episode of the season. And rather than introducing a new virtue or a new archetype, I want to do something different. I want to bring everything we've covered into a single picture and then hold that picture up and ask you to look at it honestly. Because this season has not been a curriculum. It has been a forging. And the question at the end of a forging is always the same. What has been made? Aristotle makes an argument about the cardinal virtues that I want to state plainly because it changes how you understand everything we've covered. He argues that the 4 virtues are not 4 separate traits that a man can possess independently of one another. They are a system. They depend on each other. And the man who has one of them fully, genuinely in the complete sense, has, by that very fact, all the others as well. Let me show you what that means concretely. Courage without prudence is recklessness. The man who will face anything but can't discern what's actually worth facing, who moves forward when he should hold, who fights when he should wait, who mistakes adrenaline for conviction, that man is not courageous in the full sense. He's reckless. His courage is real, and it is ungoverned, and ungoverned courage does damage. Prudence without self-control is cleverness in service of appetite. The man who can see clearly what needs to be done, but whose desires are pulling him in a different direction, who knows the right thing to do, but does the convenient thing instead, that man's practical wisdom has been compromised at the root. He's smart, but about the wrong things. Self-control without justice is a private achievement that helps no one. The man who has ordered his interior life, who has governed his desires and his appetites, but who has turned none of that ordering outward, who renders nothing to the people around him, who keeps the discipline for himself, that man has done something genuinely difficult, for sure, but he's produced nothing good beyond himself. And justice without courage collapses. The man who knows what he owes, and to whom, who sees clearly the obligations his relationships require of him, but who will not pay them when paying them might cost him something, that man has justice as an intellectual conviction and not as a moral reality. He'll be just when it's easy, but what will he be when it gets hard? The 4 virtues aren't a list, they're a structure. Pull one out and the others are compromised. Hold all 4, and you have something that is more than the sum of its parts. What you have is character. A man who is not merely brave or merely wise or merely disciplined or merely fair, but who is all of those things at once, each one reinforcing and completing the others. That's what the tradition means when it speaks of virtue in the full sense, not a quantity, a formation. The same argument applies to Moore's 4 archetypes, and Moore makes it himself, though not always as clearly as it needs to be made for a general audience. The warrior, the magician, the lover, and the king are not 4 roles a man cycles through depending on context. They aren't modes he enters or exits. They're not a menu from which he selects based on what the situation calls for. They are 4 dimensions of a single mature man, always present, always available, integrated into a coherent self. The failure Moore is most concerned with is the man who has 1 or 2 of the archetypes strongly developed, while the other archetypes are suppressed or absent. And if you look at the failure modes, they're recognizable. For example, a man who is all warrior and no lover is the man we named in episode 10. Impressive on the outside, but dead on the inside. Disciplined, effective, present in the functional sense, and unable to be genuinely moved by anything. His strength is real, his aliveness is not. Or the man who is all magician and no king is the expert who will not lead. He has the mastery, the long view, the capacity for systems thinking, but he withholds it. He advises from a distance. He will not put himself in the position of being responsible for an outcome because responsibility is the king's territory and he won't go there. Or take the man who is all lover and no warrior. He can't sustain anything he cares about. His aliveness is real, but his discipline isn't. He is moved by everything, but held by nothing. And the man who is all king and no magician is the leader who has run out of vision, who can order and bless the territory he already understands, but he can't see beyond it. He can't learn. He can't be surprised into something new. Moore's term for the man who has integrated all four archetypes is the mature masculine self. Not a type, not an ideal, the actual thing. The man in whom all four dimensions are present and available without any one of them dominating or suppressing the others. Such a man isn't in warrior mode today and lover mode tomorrow. He's the man who walks into a room and is simultaneously capable of strength and aliveness, of mastery and of blessing. The integration isn't a project that gets finished. It's the ongoing work of a man who takes his own formation seriously. Let me try to describe this man, not in the language of virtues and archetypes, but in the language of what it's actually like to be around him. When he walks into a room, the room doesn't reorganize itself around his ego. He doesn't need it to. He's present enough in himself that he doesn't require the situation to confirm him when he arrives. He doesn't need to assert his own frame. He can give his attention freely because he's not using it to manage his own anxiety. He tells the truth, not as a performance of honesty, not as a way of establishing his own integrity, but because he has decided that the people he is in relationship with deserve his real opinion and assessment of things. He's learned that withholding the truth consistently is a kind of contempt for the people he says he cares about. And he has too much genuine regard for the people around him to offer them anything less. He is capable of being moved. Something in him is vibrant and alive. He appreciates beauty. He's sensitive to suffering. He gives his attention fully to the person in front of him. He's not traded his aliveness for competence. He has both. He has standards for himself first and then for the people he's responsible for, and he holds them without requiring anyone to thank him for it. His standards are not a performance. They're simply the way he's decided he needs to show up. He knows what he owes and he pays it. Not perfectly, not without cost, but consistently and with the full weight of his attention on the specific person he is paying it to. That man is not an ideal. He's the standard the tradition has always been pointing toward. He's the man this season has been building. And the only question that matters at the end of this season is, how much of him are you? I want to be honest with you about something. Most men who have listened to this entire season, who have heard the virtue arguments, who have met the archetypes, who have sat with the sentence stems and actually finished them, most of those men can feel with some clarity the distance between the man the season has been describing and the man they actually are. That distance isn't a small thing. For some of you, it's a lot. And I'm not going to minimize that. But I want to name what that distance is and what it isn't. It's not evidence that you're beyond the reach of this work. It's not evidence that the standard is too high or that it applies to other men but not to you. It's not a verdict on your character or a measure of your worth. It's simply a description of where you are, which is, in fact, the only piece of information you need in order to know where the forging continues. The tradition has a word for the gap between what a man is and what he's capable of becoming. Aristotle calls it the gap between actuality and potentiality. What you are now is actual. What you're capable of is potential. And the work of virtue, the sustained, unglamorous daily work of practicing the things you're not yet good at, is the process by which the potential becomes actual. That process is called forging, not for dramatic effect, because forging is actually what it is. The application of heat and pressure to raw material repeatedly over time until the material has been shaped into something it could not have become any other way. You don't forge a man in a weekend. You don't forge him in a season of a podcast. You forge him across years of choosing again and again to be the thing rather than to intend the thing. What this season has given you, if it's given you anything, is the map. The 4 virtues, the 4 archetypes, the sentence stems that named each week the specific place where the work is most needed. You know where you are on the map. You know with more precision than you did a dozen episodes ago what the gap looks like and where it lives. That knowledge is not a burden. It's the most useful thing you can have. A man who knows where he is can go somewhere else. A man who doesn't know where he is can't. So here's what I'm asking of you. Not a resolution, not a dramatic commitment to become a different man by Tuesday. I'm asking for the honest acknowledgement to yourself, not to me, not to anybody else, of where you actually are and what's actually in the way. That acknowledgement, made without drama and without self-pity, is the beginning of the forging that this season has been preparing you for. 12 episodes, 4 virtues, 4 archetypes, 1 question asked from every angle. What does it mean for a man to become fully what he's capable of being? I said at the beginning of this series that Fire and Iron isn't about fixing you. It's about forging what's already there. I want to come back to that because I think it's the most important thing I've said across the entire season. You are not a problem. You are not a set of deficits to be corrected. You are a man with a nature, with capacities, with an orientation toward a genuine end, and the work of your life is to become fully what you already are in seed form. The virtues are not additions to your nature, they are its actualization. The archetypes are not roles you put on, they are dimensions of the man you were always meant to be. The forging doesn't stop here. It never stops. But you're further along than you were when you started. And that's not nothing. That is, in fact, everything. Because the man who's further along is a man who's capable of going further still. Thank you for being here for this. I mean that sincerely and without reservation. I'm Father Michael Butler. This is Fire and Iron. The season is complete. Let the forging continue.